Just thought that would be a nice way to start a video. Um, so I wanted to, I guess, talk a little bit about this raw food diet. Because it's a thing, diet, as everybody knows, is a big issue. Because what you put in here can make you sick or healthy, right? And so it affects a lot of people. And so I guess I just wanted to share a little bit more about this raw food diet. And so because now that I'm doing this, I end up speaking about it with people, even just like people that I'm close to, friends, and they say, "Oh, how come you're doing that?" And then I feel like it's a good idea to have um, something to say there, right? Just at a loss for words, sorry. But so some of the science behind it, I mean, there's a number of reasons for it. I mean, for myself, it is just I don't know if the word is anecdotal evidence. I mean, it is just based on the experience that I've had. Like when I've tried so many diets, and then I keep coming back to this. This is my fifth time eating this way, and it because I've been putting all the stress on my body and stuff for yoga and things like that, and this is the only thing that has worked, that where it has just turned everything around for me health wise. And it has done in the past, but there was other factors that I was missing, such as eating a protein supplement because I like to go to the gym a fair amount and practice quite a bit of yoga. So it's like, if you're not, if you're exerting yourself in that way, you have to take that into account when you're eating. And so, but some of the things that are some of the arguments, for what it's worth, for a raw food diet, one of them is to do with a condition called leukocytosis. So leuko, it's like your blood, and then cyto, like cytoplasm, so like white blood cells. And so what it is that your body, anytime that it is dealing with an infection or something like that, it I don't know if it creates or releases more blood cells, but it uses it. Sorry, I sat and touched my foot and it scared me. It produces or uses more blood cells to counteract or to combat, to deal with or process whatever it is that it needs to, whether it's some sort of an intrusion, something that it's fighting, right? And so this is something that your body does anytime you eat a 100% cooked meal. Your body has this reaction of leukocytosis. This is science. You can look it up. It is common knowledge if you're into that kind of thing. I mean, and so that's important. It's really important to, if this is like a reaction that is taking place, it might be worthwhile for us to take notice of this. And this is certainly something, one of these things that add up to, okay, it makes sense to incorporate as much raw food into our diets as possible in order to lessen this effect, this phenomena, for what it's worth. And so, but the little thing is that they've done studies and things like that, and so a person only actually needs to eat 10%, say like in a meal that they eat, you can, if so long as 10% of it is raw, the body will not react with leukocytosis. And so, and I think that one of the reasons why this isn't good is because, like clearly it's reacting in this way. This is an indication. It is telling you something, for one. And also, it's like these white blood cells, they probably take resources from your body to produce, and the reaction, all that kind of stuff. So the less that you need to put your body into a state where it needs to defend itself and use its resources to defend itself, the better, right? Because then you get to use those resources for other things. So leukocytosis, And so that's the thing, you can eat like the studies say that you can eat 10% of raw food within a meal and avoid that. But the thing is just because you can doesn't mean you should. I mean, some people can digest all kinds of things easier than others, but does that mean that it's ideal and that it's beneficial? That's the big question. I mean, you got to decide that one for yourself. So that is certainly one of the things. Another one of the arguments for what it's worth is to do with the formation of the compound known as acrylamide, which is something that occurs during a I think it's Maillard reaction. So I think it's a French person's name, so that's why it doesn't always roll off everybody's tongue super easy. But it's like Maillard, but it's not pronounced like Mallard or anyways. The Maillard reaction, and it is to do with a combination of so simple sugars, which are present in everything, including meat, whether it's steak or chicken and stuff like that. These are just simple sugars that are present within muscle tissues and stuff like that. We're not talking about complex carbohydrates and things like that. We're talking about sugars that are just everywhere, essentially. I mean, you got to take what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm doing my best with this anyways. And so it is when you heat these things. So and then there's a protein that is found in proteins that is that is called, or no, there's an amino acid that is found in proteins that is called asparagine or something like that. You can look it up, and it is it is that protein which bonds with these simple sugars to create a compound, a carcinogenic compound known as acrylamide. And so it's a plastic type of thing, like acrylic, right? Acrylamide. And so it's created by these simple sugars and this amino acid, and it's carcinogenic, which is toxic. It's not good for you. And so but the thing is this Maillard reaction is what is responsible for the golden color that you get from cooked food, and certainly the brown, it changes the flavors of things. So like say roasting coffee has acrylamide in it. Not a lot, right? Because it's a drink. It's not like you're consuming like say something like bread, which has been toasted to toasty goodness, and then cut into pieces, then toasted again until the entire thing is brown. But then, or something like French fries, which has been, so it's to do with high heat, dry environment cooking, produces more and more of this stuff. And so it is not found in any significant amounts when you boil things, because I guess it's to do with the temperature. It doesn't get over a certain temperature, and the humidity, the moisture in that cooking method, right? And same thing with, I did an amount of research on pressure cookers yesterday, because I find I eat cooked food like maybe once a week, like one meal or something like that. I find that my body actually wants it and craves for it and asks for it. And so I give it to it. It just, sometimes it's like there's something about, I don't know why, right? I don't know what it is that's in rice or beans or something that it's looking for, but I seem to do well, at least in this stage of where I'm at with this diet, to I can tell that my body wants something a little bit heavier. Like maybe I need to further develop my diet with other recipes, that, and like to have enough diversity that I'm essentially getting everything that I need. But for now, yeah, like once a week, Sunday, it's my day of rest essentially, where I will, yeah, eat certain things like that. But yeah, the whole acrylamide thing, I mean, it's yeah, it's a tricky one. And so that's why, like, when in on a raw food diet, like I just bought a dehydrator, and it never in well, of course it does all sorts of temperatures, but you don't, if you're on a raw food diet, you don't heat anything over 114 degrees or something like that, which is something like 40 degrees. So that's just like a hot day, right? It's like having a hot day and having a fan blowing on something which dries stuff out. And so if, as long as it's thin enough, and there's lots of air movement, you can dry something out in a reasonable amount of time. I made some crackers the other day from leftover juice pulp, and then, which is awesome, because then I like to make guacamole, but I just don't like eating it with vegetables. It doesn't do it for me. But I made these raw crackers and dehydrated them with the juice. I used juice pulp, I think, combined with like flax and some chia seeds and like a few other things, and then made these crackers, which is awesome, because then you can add all kinds of like herbs and spices and things like that, and really make some really tasty things. First run wasn't very good, but I'm going to eat them today anyways. But yeah, and so another way that I think about this is it's like, so why, once again, raw food? And the answer is because, so like with this idea that you don't want to heat things over 115 degrees, 114 or something like that, it's because like there's something that happens when you do that. Like, say for a human being, like with a lot of plants, they don't want to be heated. If they're heated up too much, they will die. Like a living plant, they don't. Not all plants fare well in that kind of an environment. Humans too. I mean, there's a tipping point where it's like we can withstand a considerable amount of heat, but it's not necessarily good for us. It's not really helping anything. At a certain point, you would be struggling to stay alive. You need to stay very hydrated. You can easily suffer heat stroke or something like that. So there is a threshold, for what it's worth, that biological life doesn't all appreciate. Of course, there are some forms of biological life forms that have adapted, or are, I don't want to say designed, but are capable of withstanding some higher temperatures, and some very high temperatures, like certain forms of bacteria that live in like underwater near like volcanic this and that's and stuff like that. So there are, it does exist, but we're not concerned about that. It's more like us, right? And and that's another part of it too, is to do with life. Like, so like this idea of raw food, but also living food, because when something is alive and you pick it, it has the most amount of life force. Like, it is a living organism. It has a vibrancy to it. It has an energy about it that is not present the longer it has been since that food has been picked or whatever. It diminishes over time, and like I don't know if it's part of the argument for that is, at least for myself, it's just like, like, I love plants. I have a few of them in my room, and they're alive. They're doing very well. They're thriving, but because they're full of life. But if I was to, say, snap them off or something like that, or do anything that could essentially terminate their life, they would they would be chemically identical to say the plant, another plant of the same kind that is living, but it is missing one element, and that is the spark of life. There is something, and it's the same thing with a human. I mean, I'm here talking to you, animated, blah, blah, blah. But if I was dead, yeah, I am physically essentially the same, but there is that element, that animating component, that piece of who we are as living organisms that is missing, and so that's why, like, say in yoga, we strive to eat as close to nature, as close to natural, as least processed, as fresh as fresh as is humanly possible in every instance that it is available. And I even strive to eat mono meals a lot of the time, because not because I necessarily like eating that way, but I can recognize that my body seems to appreciate it more. Like when instead of mixing a bunch of things in a bowl, like even raspberries, bananas, and coconut yogurt, if I just eat the bananas, I feel better because it's just easier for my body to digest. And so, yeah, and I guess the more I eat this way, the more I get accustomed to it and see the benefits of it, because I feel better and I have more energy, and I recover faster from the strain that I put myself under with going to the gym and practicing yoga, and I think clearer. It doesn't I'm looking on my computer. It doesn't interfere with my working process, because I know that when I have a full stomach, so now I try to only, like I've heard it so many times, you leave your stomach a quarter full or something. Yeah, a quarter empty. So that, and make sure that you have liquids, so it's like something in your stomach, so it's kind of like a soup in there, so that your body has space to perform its functions, and everything is kind of like in a state that it is able to process. Like even bananas, I will drink a little bit of water, maybe like a cup of water or something like that when I eat bananas, because they are quite dry. So just something to help the body. And I'll eat, because I eat like 3 bananas at a time is essentially what I eat, because it's a meal. And yeah, so what else about raw food? I mean, the difference between, yeah, all that kind of stuff. There's the argument for enzymes, because, so I guess enzymes are proteins. And so like there are, anyways, enzymes are produced by your body. I can't remember if it's like your pancreas or something, or there's one of your organs produces enzymes, but vegetables and stuff like that have enzymes in them. And so, and these enzymes our bodies use to help process and break down and digest the things that we're eating. And it's funny, I think it's funny, just in my own initial thinking, that it's like these things, that is a fruit, which is, as far as I'm concerned, is our most natural food. I mean, it's the easiest thing for our bodies to digest. That kind of tells you something. And they contain all of the things that your body is after, more or less. Yeah. And so, I mean, like vitamins and minerals and carbohydrates, specifically fruits. I do eat some vegetables, just for variety and for enjoyment and for different meals and stuff like that. But I just think that it's funny that, say, like these fruits, like this cucumber here, has these enzymes in it to help you digest it. It's like it contains the elements that it needs, that the animal that's going to eat it can utilize to help aid in the digestion of it. Because in a natural setting, if you ate this and then you pooped it out, then you are essentially planting its seed. So of course it's like there's a symbiotic relationship right there between humans and fruits, specifically fruits, because you don't have to kill the plant in order to get food from it. Whereas like with vegetables, you do, like say tubers, you need to uproot them. I mean, the whole plant needs to be killed in order for us to take it for food. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, but I just like that that's not the case with fruit, because a fruit is any plant which produces a flower that grows a structure which contains seeds. So cucumbers and all sorts of beans and stuff like that, and legumes, and of course bananas and papayas and mangoes and mangosteens and guanabanas and durians and jackfruits, all that kind of stuff. It's just a part of a circle of life that we play a part in, because we are consumers of these fruits. They're visually, aromatically, and the taste, I can't remember what the word is, but they taste good. I mean, they're very attractive to us. The different colors and the smells and the flavors, the aromas, these things that these fruits give off, they're very satisfying. Like, I love cucumbers. There's something, they're very cooling and they're full of water. It's a type of melon. And they're just lovely, like a crisp cucumber, crunchy and hydrating, full of water, distilled water, and like and vibrancy too, because it's if they're fresh and whatnot. And so that's certainly a thing. What else? There's the whole enzymes thing. There was the idea that the more, so if you're eating things where the enzymes are denatured, where it doesn't contain these things that help your body to break it down, then your body can tap its own stores. But you can become, apparently I'm going to be careful with this. It's like, I think that it might be possible to become depleted in your enzymes and then run into digestive issues. So if you're eating only cooked food, then this can be an issue. But if you're eating a lot of raw food, then your body doesn't have to work, doesn't have to use its own enzyme stores in order to break these things down and derive energy from them, rather than have it so that you have to use energy in order to thrive from what you're eating. So all those things. I mean, I don't know what else there is. For myself, I will say that I've said over the last number of days that I feel like this has been a long time coming for me. I've felt that this was the right move for a long time. I am a hypersensitive person as well. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like that's not a factor. So certain things are really important to me, like my health, like my mental clarity, my vitality. They mean a lot to me because I have work to do. And it's like, if I'm not in a good place, mentally, emotionally, physically, I feel drained. It doesn't help anything that I am pouring my heart and soul into. I need to be running optimally. And so I've said to myself a few times since I've been on this raw food diet that this is the greatest move that I have made in a very long time. I am involved in a number of things. I write, I make YouTube videos. This whole yoga thing, I mean, it's all important, right? But this, on like a personal level, that it's taken so long to actually embrace and to kind of come to a place where I was ready for this. I needed the motivation of sickness and pain and illness and injury and suffering. Pain and suffering is what it took to get me to a place where it's just like, okay, yeah, I'm ready now. I've had enough. I can see that this is the move forward, and then actually embracing the diet and creating a diet plan, or like a meal plan, is just huge, because some things, I don't know, I suppose like any diet, but you need to essentially prepare certain things, like say sprouts. I make sprouts all the time, but I need to soak the seeds, and then you need to sprout them. You need to rinse them every day. It can take like 3, 4, 5 days or whatever to have sprouts. So if you don't start them on Monday, you're not having sprouts on Friday, when it might have, say, like a charcuterie board, like where you have, I used to call it a pick and mix with my ex-wife, and you have all these little things, different vegetables and the crackers. That's why you need the dehydrator. So you need to make these things, and you need to find the good recipes, and you need to try them out. You need to screw things up, and then say, okay, I'm going to take what I learned from that, and then I'm going to do better moving forward. And like this cracker recipe, I made it just off this thing I got on the internet, and I printed it out, and it was not good. And it's like, I followed it to the T just because it said, because I wanted to just follow the instructions for once, rather than always trying to think outside of the box. And they're okay, right? They're just not great. But it's a basic recipe. And so I grew a herb garden this year. I found this big, huge pot in a dumpster at work. And then I fixed it with some shugu, and then bought all kinds of like soil amendments. I bought some organic vegetable soil, potting soil kind of stuff. And then I got this biochar stuff, because it creates like a home. It's like they superheat wood in a no oxygen environment, and then like break it up, and so it stores the carbon, and it like creates a place. It's like a home for bacteria and microorganisms and stuff like that. Because with gardening and just life in general, it is it's not it is like it's a whole system together. It's not just the soil, right? So I went to the river up like Chilliwack Lake Road, where there's not a bunch of contamination in houses and stuff like that, and I went and collected soil from in the bush, living soil, from like in a way up in a valley with a microclimate and stuff like that. And then I went down to the river, and I collected sand with rocks, so that you have like the minerals and things like that in there. And there's going to be all sorts of things, like there is like mycelium and bacteria and like little bugs and things. Who knows what is in any of that stuff? And I added that all into my mix. And then and I planted a little herb garden. So I got like tarragon and cilantro and dill and chives and a bunch of stuff, so that I have all of these things, so that when I make like an almond cheese or a cashew cheese, I have these beautiful fresh herbs to add into this stuff. And the things that I taste are super fresh and delicious. So I mean, it's a process, like making all this stuff. Another one that's on my thing is this salsa macha recipe. I found this amazing sort of chili oil that they make down in Mexico that I just fell in love with. And I, a little bit of oil drizzle for that, just the right amount of spiciness on stuff. Yes, please. And, also to do with like making veggies and dip and stuff like that. Like, you need to soak your cashews for a good amount of time to make them really soft, so you get a really creamy dip when you make it. And you need to experiment. You got to make these things over and over and over so that you get the recipe right. I mean, and you're gonna make some that aren't the best, because there's recipes out there. But then you figure it out. You find your way. You use your own culinary skills and experimentation skills, and all of a sudden you get good at it. And then you start developing your own recipe. You find something that's just really good. Like I make, what are they called, like bliss balls. So and I've made a number of them. It's just like a little ball with stuff in it. And so I started making this. The best one I ever made, it was with walnuts, raisins, sea salt, a little bit of sea salt, but not too little, right? Because you want to be able to taste it. And then maybe some hemp seeds, maybe some hemp or some pumpkin seeds or something like that. But the basic thing was just those, and probably a little bit of shredded coconut. And I mean, some flavor combinations work really well together. They complement each other, just like when you make cooked food. Like there's something about tomato and rice, or tomato rice and fennel, or tomato rice, fennel and celery, or leek and potato, or there's just certain combinations of some foods that pair very well. And I find that having this having a schedule to keep myself ahead of the game, so that you're not sitting there and like, oh gee, I didn't prep anything, I didn't plan anything, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a pinch. And for myself, that is the only time now, aside from sometimes once a week, where I will actually eat cooked food, because it's like, in a pinch at the end of the day, I'm not gonna fuss. It's like, if I get home, if I work like a 10-hour day and I'm tired, and it's like, man, I have nothing prepared, I can put half a cup of quinoa in my Instant Pot, and it takes 1 minute, and make a meal, and then have something to eat that is nutritious, that has a lot of things that my body can use. But yeah, so in a pinch, that's, yeah. And also for enjoyment. I mean, because they say everything in moderation, including moderation. And that's why I like to essentially allow myself cooked food once a week. And I'm sure that is subject to change, because everything is. But it's where I'm at now. I mean, and it's, I think it helps, right, to not go, to allow a transition period for anything. Too quick of a change can be challenging, right? So a transition can be beneficial, and that is where I'm at right now. And certainly to do with like making juices and stuff like that. Like I made this carrot, apple, and kale juice, and then used the pulp combined with other things to make these crackers. So now all of a sudden I'm not wasting anything, and instead of buying what do you call them, tortilla chips, even though they're organic and all that kind of stuff, it's like I'm keeping it 100% raw, and they're just as good, and I'm saving money, because I'm not throwing away this element, all this fiber that is. So then I'm reintroducing a bunch of fiber into my diet, and also saving money, because you otherwise have to buy something else, and you're essentially throwing food away if you're juicing. So it's just like, when I sat there and I got this new fancy Excalibur digital dehydrator, I mean, it's a slick unit. It works really well. And cause it's just like boom, and then you just walk away. It's just the best. And that's when I was like, wow, this just makes so much sense. But if you don't have a dehydrator, if you don't have a high speed blender, because say like for the, what do you call, for the green juice crackers, you need ground flax seeds, but you don't want to buy, or I wouldn't want to buy ground flax seeds, because once you bust them open, those oils can become rancid. So it's much better. That's why, like, it's better to buy nuts in the shells when you can, because those shells protect them from oxidization. And so, I mean, I do buy, cashews and stuff like that. I buy a ton of shelled stuff, right? But it's, that's that idea anyways. But yeah, you need to grind the flax seeds. And so I do that in my high speed blender, and it works awesome. I mean, the next thing that is on my list of things that I need to buy is a big food processor, because for making certain recipes, it really helps to have a big bowl that you can fit lots of stuff in, so you're not doing these tiny little batches. Like I have a little 4-cup one that I bought fairly recently, and yeah, it's not, it's a KitchenAid one, but it's not the best. I've actually found the best quality of food processor that is available, and it is made by a company called Magimix, which is it's a French company, and they're the ones that invented the food processor back in, I don't know if it was the 1800s or a long time ago, right? Anyways, they invented the thing, and so it is the best one. And they make a mini one and up to the bigger sizes, and it comes with all these attachments. So it's a very versatile thing. It's been refined to a great deal so that it has a very quiet, very powerful motor. They don't skimp on any of the building materials. These things are built to last. They're built to be repaired, and on and on and on. So I'm drinking coffee once in a while, right? Yeah, and so it really helps to have all of these things, and it's hard to, yeah, I think it could be a challenge to embrace such a diet without some of these tools, especially things like the blender and the personal blender too. I mean, because I have a little one. It's like most people have NutriBullets. I have one by another company called TriBest, and that thing, that's what I make salad dressings in it, and I make my dips in it and stuff like that. I mean, very very useful tool, so that you don't got to bust out the big huge thing, and then washing it is, it's just more work. I mean, if I had my own place, I guess all of these things would just be lined up on my counter, and it wouldn't be a big deal. But that is not my living situation at the moment. So yeah, and a juicer, of course. I mean, if you don't have a juicer, yeah, it's pretty hard to juice, right? I mean, and it takes a bit of research and stuff like that. Like you like the kind that you want is a slow turning masticating juicer, something that doesn't create heat, that doesn't destroy the enzymes, it doesn't heat up the juice in any way. I mean, you can spend all kinds of money on these things, but I used to do Champion juicers, but they do heat it up, and the thing moves so fast and whatnot. And then I used to do a juice press. I made like a hydraulic press, but now I just have an Omega juicer that I think I got off Craigslist for like $100. I mean, or when I was with my last girlfriend there, we got it together. And so, yeah, really, it helps to have that stuff. And also the cookbooks too. I mean, if you don't have raw cookbooks or resources, because you don't want to be resorting to, like, say, some cookbook from like the 80s or something like that. Like these, I think we have like a bit more of a modern palate these days, and there's certain, yeah, you don't want anything that you eat to be bland or boring, or not, you want the flavors to be pronounced, something where you're like, I can taste that in it. That really, yeah, oh, I can tell exactly what's in it because the proportions of what are used and because of the right ingredients, the right, this recipe was designed very thoughtfully. It's not just about making things, like making an overall dish. It's about the coming together to create like a unity of a dish. um, yeah, and then to have, like, for myself, guacamole, having a good guacamole recipe, which I did make a video on, and things, even like salad rolls, like Vietnamese salad rolls, even though those rice papers are like rice, which is cooked, it's not raw. That little bit, for what it's worth, for a thing that you're gonna roll up your thing in, and then you can make the satay sauce out of, you can get raw almond butter, and then just a few other things, like I use like a coconut soy alternative. Not that I'm against soy, but I just prefer the coconut stuff because I got off of a lot of wheat-based products when I was struggling with gluten sensitivity. And so, yeah, I mean, it's possible to do all of these things almost 100% raw, and yeah, and really good. I mean, like, I enjoy every one of these meals. Outside of the blender soups, I haven't really found one that's awesome. I'm looking forward to the raw hummus. You just sprout them, you soak them and sprout them, and then you make this raw hummus, which I'm very excited for because I used to be the king of hummus. I've made a video of hummus. I've made hummus so many times for so many people ever since being in the Middle East and traveling around Jordan. And, it's like, once you know what it's supposed to taste like, and I really enjoy it, and I will eat it myself. I will still make cooked hummus. But I never eat hummus. I try not to eat it when I'm out, though, because I don't feel that others soak their chickpeas for long enough. And so, and they don't cook them for long enough. And yeah, I get indigestion from store-bought hummus, so I just stay away from it. But making it at home, I can ensure that I'm utilizing every method that I am aware of that is available to me to reduce any undesirable effects that can come from eating things like chickpeas, to do with like gas and indigestion and anything along those lines. I mean, you can control how much garlic is in it, you can control how much salt is in it, you can control, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, really good. Yeah. And then having like a number of salads in your repertoire, in your, under your belt, like different types of salads. I have gravitated towards very simple types of salads. So it's like greens, sometimes only greens, like fresh greens that I buy, and sometimes greens and say like one vegetable like cucumbers, or greens, and but not a giant mix of things. I just for my skills in salad making, that just doesn't work. And I find that my body digests it easier if it's just essentially two ingredients. And the same thing with, like, I make like a chunky salad, which could be like avocados and bell peppers, or tomatoes and cucumbers, but very simple, and really very light. Like, those things taste awesome on their own, so just very lightly seasoned for what it's worth. I guess like a lot of the time I will buy like a very expensive balsamic vinegar, that has, it's almost not even like vinegar. It's more like I guess what most people would consider to be a reduction, but it's what I just consider to be high quality balsamic vinegar, which there's like a sweetness to it. So like a little bit of that and like a little bit of lime so that you get that acidity, and then a little bit of salt and pepper and a little bit of an oil such as flax oil or avocado, or sorry, olive oil or something like that, right? But really simple eating. I mean, hats off to people who have the recipes to make more complex things that taste very good, to make these fancy salad dressings. I have not found it yet. I haven't even like, I have some of the cookbooks, but you have to go through them and you have to make these recipes. You have to find the time for that stuff. I just find myself strapped for time, so I make more simple food. Also, as a bachelor, that's just my paradigm at the moment. I know that when you have a partner or something like that, you have help in the kitchen. You go a little farther to make a little more, you put a little more effort into the things that you make. Yeah. And so, and even just, another thing too that like I said, the fruit mono meals. I mean, I haven't eaten anything today, and the first thing I will eat though will be 3 bananas. And then sometimes, or my boss always takes me out for lunch, and then after I go to the gym and stuff like that, I will have something light in the evening. I do eat popcorn on occasion, but on occasion, just because I don't know, sometimes it's nice. There are some times in my life when I want to enjoy that stuff, but it's just important to keep it at a distance and to not let it become a thing that you're doing every day, that you're gorging in, and you're making this giant bowl that's just like way more than you need, and taxing your body in that way. Yeah. And just eating simple things, like nuts and chocolate is a wonderful thing. I love eating dried fruit, nuts, and chocolate. And I'm so happy now that I have this dehydrator, because now I take care of an orchard for somebody just for free, just because I love the fruit that is produced from it. And now I have the means to essentially process and store a lot of that fruit, and that, dried fruit is awesome. Salad rolls, blender soups, hummus, guacamole, juices, charcuterie, smoothies, different salads, veggies and dip. Yeah, that's it. So that is how I am surviving, or that is how I'm thriving on this diet at the moment. I mean, it's not, that is one element of my life that I'm working on, but that is how I'm working through it and what it means to me. And and another part of it too is, of course, you have to, it's something that even in like Annie Fio's Raw Food Essentials book, she says, it doesn't make sense if you're living in like a really cold climate to be only eating raw food. And especially because it's not going to be fresh and stuff like that, because if it's not growing season, then everything's going to be brought in. So sometimes it doesn't make sense, it makes more sense to eat cooked foods and whatnot, things that are gonna provide your body with everything that you need. So all of this stuff, you never abandon reason or logic. You always have to practice discernment. You always have to listen to your body. You need to pay attention to your surroundings. You need to think, you need to listen to what your intuition is telling you, and you need to do research, and you need to sometimes, at least in my opinion, you need to not run all of your ideas by other people, because some people will try to find, some people will look for something that's wrong with everything and use that as a reason why it doesn't make any sense or that it's stupid. Like I had somebody recently, They're like, oh, well, you eat this vegan diet, but it's like, what about avocados? They take and they bring bees there, then they pollinate the things, and then they kill all the bees. So it's like, so you're a bee killer. And I was just like, like, it's just one of those conversations where it's just like, I don't even know where to start with that. It's best to not even, because some people, they like to find these loopholes for reasons why they shouldn't even make an effort. And it's like they say it's like your avocados. It's like, what do you mean me? I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one eating avocados, right? I mean, lots of people who eat all kinds of diets that enjoy avocados. So, sometimes it is better to keep some of this stuff to yourself, I must say, because not everybody, especially in the beginning phases when you're not super educated about this stuff, when you haven't been walking the path for a long time, if you're not the image of perfect health or whatever, you're going through things. It's certainly when you start doing this diet, you're going to detox. I mean, and that's not the best. You go through times when you feel absolutely terrible, but then you come out the other side of it feeling a lot better. I'm just about to start a detox right now because my dad grows garlic, and so the garlic scapes are available. So I was like, okay, that's super high potency food that I'm just going to detox for a couple of days, eat all of them, and just give my body a flush for what it's worth. Because I do sometimes put things in my body that aren't ideal, and yeah. So what else? Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, this, it's an ongoing thing, this topic. But yeah, I guess that just to finish what I was saying there about this whole thing, that it's, yeah, certainly for myself, sometimes wise to not share too much. If people, yeah, sometimes just because it's eating a diet like this is so far, it's so different to some people. It's like people don't like things that are, some people seem to struggle with things that are very foreign to them. It can be triggering, for a variety of reasons. Without going into it, I'm trying to bring this video to an end, so I don't want to kind of go down that road, because it's like psychological stuff, right? But what to say, yeah, it's just better to keep some of this stuff to yourself, because I tell you something. If you go on Google and you Google raw food diet and you click on Wikipedia, all it will tell you is that it is a fad diet, that you're going to miss out on nutrients, that it started in like the 60s or something like that. Like, seriously, like, you're saying that raw food started in the 60s. Like, when I read that, I was going to donate to Wikipedia because I do appreciate a lot of the things that they share on there. But, reading things like that, it strikes a chord with me. I'm thinking twice about whether or not next time they do their whole fundraising thing, I'm actually going to donate, just because how it just seems so, it's like, where, it should be an unbiased opinion, where it's like, it's not, it doesn't come across as a balanced article. It's just saying how this is a fad diet, and on and on and on. So you have to be really careful the resources that you're citing, essentially, when you're looking into things, because you will find, you look for it on the internet, you will find it. You will find people that say that all kinds of things, that spirituality is just a made up thing, that veganism is just it's just a joke. You're going to get sick, that raw food is a bad idea. I mean, it's out there. So you have to be careful and you have to do your research. And yeah, so before you go talking about it with other people, just keep it, for myself, it's like keep it to yourself and just be an example of somebody who has a lot of energy, who has a clear complexion, who is doing really well and is obviously thriving. And then when people say, well, eventually they might get curious, right? And say, and then they might ask you and you say, well, I'm doing this, but it's something that I'm working on. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into this anymore. I'm just sharing some of these thoughts. It's the stuff that I have been going through in my life with this journey and in relation to other people and all that kind of stuff and the research that I've been doing. So yeah, and that's it, right? I'm gonna finish right now. Finish with the bowl, end with the bowl.